very famous throughout not only the Bible but history as well. There's something about when a man that stands for the Lord has a tendency to backslide or go to the ways of the world, they rejoice in that. And so the idolatry of King Solomon is very, very much popularized. Now, let me preface this by saying that outside of King David, again, Solomon may perhaps be my favorite character due to the fact that his exploits of wisdom and wealth are next to none. Also, the love story of how he and Queen Sheba became to be is by far one of my favorite and most used examples when I'm speaking with couples or even women of my own accord. But we won't be studying that today, but there is much to be gleaned here. And I also love the character study of Solomon as a whole, because even outside of the Bible, like I said, he's known in a lot of other religions and other circles as well for exploits, but I'll let you do your own research concerning that. But it's very interesting because here we have arguably the wisest man to ever live, but the scriptures consider him to be a man that allowed women to turn his heart away from God in his later years. Now, this is both heartbreaking and widely documented. Now, imagine the Lord's very elect, the son of King David, whom scriptures describe as a man after God's own heart, bending the knee to numerous false gods and utterly defiling the house of David and everything that it stood for, both of which battle with very lustful spirits. Now, father and son both had those, and has led to extremely foolish decisions on both ends. And to top it all off, the Lord came to Solomon on 2 separate occasions, warning against what was to come. But for today's purpose, let's take a look at Solomon, and we pick up here in chapter 11 of 1 Kings. Now, King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go into them, neither shall thy come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. Now again, we know to go in to someone or to have them come unto you, in biblical terms, that's to have sex with someone. So he warns against having sex with them, because surely they will turn your heart away from me. And Solomon went on to have 700 wives. Good gracious, that's a large following like King Solomon, baby. And princess and 300 concubines, and his wives, gotta make sure I put that plural, turned away his heart. Of course, for it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods when he was old. Notice that, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Asheroth and the gods of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Now, and Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did his father. Then did Solomon build a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Moloch, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all of his strange wives, which burned incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned away, or was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which he had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, For as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant, and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of thy hand, out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. So here again we can clearly see, despite the woman, again, she is a helpmeet. You are responsible for all actions that occur while you preside over this situation. In Solomon's case, this is just a tragedy here. The Lord came to him personally on 2 occasions, warning him against it. I'm sure Solomon, in all his wisdom, probably thought he knew better. And sure many of us can be guilty of that as well. But it just so happens that he had great power, so he was able to manifest his lust to its fullest extent and do whatever he wanted to do. But ours may be to a lesser extent, but still the result is what I'm looking at. Someone who knew to do better, again going against the instructions of his own heart to please his woman. And we see the terrible result of that, of course, him losing the kingdom for the most part, but due to his father still being able to retain one tribe. Again, you are responsible for all of the actions that occur while you preside over the situation. And we have noticed that being with a woman who does not have the same goals as you, or maybe you are unequally yoked spiritually, we notice the benefits of this, and we speaking on a later date, the fact that it could in fact be detrimental to you. But in this case, having a large following such as King Solomon in its essence negated what he knew to be real and compromised his morals and standards to please his woman. And in this case, I would say this was Solomon's greatest downfall, causing the Lord to strip his family of the crown, moving forward, dwindling it down to just one house or ruling of one tribe. And this was only for his father David's sake once again. So in this message, just to kind of summarize everything here, or summarize it rather, we've covered a lot. We've covered God's initial and perfect plan for man and woman, and we have discovered what the first commandment was for those who didn't know. And we've also reviewed numerous examples of key relationships in the Bible, and we have explored a few recurring themes. We've also explored mistakes that were made, and we also see who is to blame in these situations, at least from a biblical standpoint. We've discussed the importance of being a man and presiding over your situation correctly. So if you're still asking yourself, what is the answer to the initial question posed? Well, here it is. The woman who was designed as your helpmeet can be either or. She can be your greatest asset if you preside over your situation correctly, and if you are a safeguard and a protector of your woman as the Lord intended. Not to be confused with a bodyguard here, but one who is able to build his woman up and keep her mind focused, and also to shower her with the information needed to combat the enemy, and to also lead to a prosperous and healthy relationship in which the Lord can bless your union. Now, of course, we saw examples of that with Adam, where he didn't properly preside over his woman and didn't properly shelter her concerning certain things, so she was able to fall by the wayside and fall into temptation. We saw the same afterwards with Abraham, with him conceding to the will of his wife when trying to think for God and moving outside of the instructions when she wasn't the one who had received them. Abraham had received them. And then we saw Job actually deal with it and rebuke his woman and go with what he knew to be real and actually stay with that. And then we saw it in its boldest and purest form, which is known as the Jezebel spirit, which is where it runs rampant and does whatever it wants to do in full authority. And so, just kind of going back to things, you can avoid many of the consequences and traps that these men fell into, or that the enemy has already laid out for you. Failing to do so, we can leave your woman, or our women rather, in a compromising position to where she can be played on, make a rash emotional decision, or even worse, she can domineer and actually influence you to go in whatever direction she deems necessary. And at this point, you have truly failed your woman, and more than likely, based on the scriptures, you're headed to that destination that we can consider to be destruction very, very soon. Now, if the Lord is not merciful, of course, because we all make mistakes and some are more detrimental than others, but I feel that an essential part of stewarding your situation correctly is the checking. Going back to what we saw in the book of Job, he corrected his woman, but he did not sin. We have witnessed the result of being passive and for just allowing your woman to move however she feels. Of course, you're not operating in your role as a man. I would go as far as to say that, in my opinion, it is unnatural for a man to be receiving and adhering to the instructions of a woman. It should go against the very spirit in you, because going back to things, we clearly see that we have been given charge to preside over everything the Lord has created, and to also be a watchman over your woman. So we have saw that the Lord Lord is going to deal with you concerning relationship moves and covenants made in your relationship. So it behooves you as a man to take charge and to stand on your business as a man, regardless of the situation and circumstance, the same way Job did. We have to do that, and in closing, I would like to end with a personal example that I've witnessed and played a major part in the shaping of who I am as a man. Now, around the age of 11, of course, my father came home from prison, and many of you may know this about me, but we were in a nice, affordable tri-level home on the south side of Charlotte. Now, my mother wanted to move to a more popular area known as Valentine in the Charlotte area. Now, this is a rather affluent area, and my father had the blueprint when he came out. Upon speaking with the Lord, he already knew this was affordable. We were going to be able to pay it off. Really run his money up, no financial difficulty in sight. Be able to sell it, make a profit off of it. But my mother wasn't hearing any of that. So initially, my father, he told her no. He did right. He told her no and said, this is what we're going to do. He broke down the game plan to her, but my mother was persistent. It kind of puts me in the mind of Solomon's women. He didn't bend initially, but later on down the line, he kind of came into play here. So I'm sure he didn't immediately erect monuments and groves of worship for his numerous wives and their numerous false gods, but after continuous persuasion and allowing this to go unchecked. Notice again the checking. This spirit of feminine persuasion can be very powerful. So in wanting to make her happy and knowing this was a bad decision, still, they make the move anyway. And it is here where I first saw what financial strain can do to a perfectly healthy relationship. It almost exacerbates every minute, every minute situation, that they came into contact with. So, hearing fighting and almost culminating into a divorce, however, this was not the outcome, of course, because they are still together and doing quite well, of course. Really over the past 20 years later from the instance, I can speak on it and, kind of look back on it and laugh. But at the time, it was a very, very serious situation. And how they managed to do this is a different story for a different day. But, I will say that if I've learned nothing else from my father and the numerous examples that I have, witnessed throughout history, and even pulling from the numerous examples that we have discussed here on today, the first and second-hand experiences, and also even from the scriptures, I can say that I'm very thankful and appreciative of the woman, because she is truly the gift of God. But as the recipient of the gift, please understand that this is beautiful. This beautiful being that has the ability to be your greatest asset, or she can be your greatest downfall, depending on who you are as a man. So the information that you possess and the ability for the Lord to show grace and mercy at times when we fail to preside over the situation correctly is going to be key. So, good luck with that. But I do hope that you have received something from this message. I would implore you to go back and rewatch and listen and truly let this minister to you. And I pray above all else that this message encourages you to think. I pray it gives you an interesting perspective on the scriptures. And lastly, I pray that this be a benefit to you as well as your intimate relationships. And so, definitely feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you think. If you disagree or if you have some scriptures to combat what I've went over here on today, feel free to let me know. And again, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you very much.